Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chicago Gooner back with another Arsenal talk. This will be episode 2, I guess you can call it. A little bit of transfer news here hitting Arsenal today was that Carlos Vela is coming back to the club. The Real Sociedad president confirmed today that Arsenal is going to activate his buyback clause, which is at about 3.4, 3.5 million pounds. They had this buyback clause within his contract once they sold him to Real Sociedad. Once he left Arsenal, um, could be good news, could be whatever. You could swing this in so many different ways. A few weeks ago, when the news broke that Arsenal was about to activate his buyback clause, uh, Carlos Vela came out himself and said he would be a completely different player coming back to Arsenal. He would do things differently. He welcomed the move back to Arsenal. Up until about, I don't know, it was about a week and a half ago, he, I don't know how much this is, I don't know where the source came from. I saw it on Twitter quite often last week that Villa said he wanted to stay at Real Sociedad, that he wanted to stay in La Liga. Of course, these kind of quotes came out once another rumor was started that Real Madrid was interested in buying Carlos Vela back or from Real Sociedad. Um, like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can swing this because last year Carlos Vela scored about 20 goals for Real Sociedad. Um, One concern about those those goals were the fact that most of his goals came from bottom half clubs in La Liga. I think he only had two Champions League goals, and that was in the playoff rounds to get into the Champions League group stages. So he really didn't score against too many high profile teams, especially in La Liga. I think he only had maybe one or two assists against the top four teams. So a lot of people are looking at, oh, he scored 20 goals. This guy's, finally turned out to be an awesome player. But when you really look at the statistics and who he scored against and how many goals he did score against certain clubs, it makes you want to take a step back a little bit. But again, you can swing this in so many different ways because, at 3.4 million, you could easily sell off Vela once you buy him back for anywhere from 12 to 15 million pounds. That seems to be the going rate right now for him. Of course, when the news broke about 3 weeks ago, Real Sociedad was trying to uh, work some type of deal with Arsenal so that they would get some of the profit because they felt that Arsenal was going to only buy him back only to sell him off again, which seems like the ideal uh, thing to do. Ivan Gazidis in his little chat with supporters last week supposedly said, like off the record, which this off the record stuff is kind of making me laugh, that Arsenal deserves a little more credit because of the clause in this deal. That they deserve a little bit more of the profit if he gets sold off from Real Sociedad. And I think these talks were happening between Real Sociedad and Arsenal. Supposedly, the Real Sociedad people came to London to talk to, of course, Arsenal to see if they could, you know, get some of the profit off of when they sell him to a different club, which I think is what's going to happen because I really don't see a place for Villa in this Arsenal group unless he becomes the third striker, the fourth striker possibly. Comes a versatile player where he can play on the wings or striker because that's what he played at in Real Sociedad. He mainly played the right wing. He interchanged playing striker during games. Sometimes he was the main striker in a game. Same with Antoine Griezmann. He was also interchangeable, playing on the left side, playing on the right side, playing striker as well, some different games. But I think the end game here is I don't think there's any room for Vela back at the club. I just do not see it as far as when you look at our winners, you look at our strikers. Um, is he better than Giroud? No. Is he better than possibly Remy, who they might bring in? I don't think so. And of course, what Arsenal fans have been screaming for ever since Robin van Persie left is a world class striker. Now Giroud is a very good striker, but he's not world class. I don't think he's a guy that's going to lead you to a Champions League final. All you have to do is look at his own statistics. Is much like Vela, to where he's kind of like a bum killer. He can score against bottom half teams, but when he comes up against top four, top five teams, he's just not there. I know he scored a couple times against Everton, of course, in the FA Cup quarterfinal. Um, but if you look, he didn't score against Chelsea. He didn't score against Man City. He didn't score against Liverpool. Um, so that's kind of a concern when you're asking a player like Carlos Vela to come back to the club because he just doesn't perform at a high level against exceptional talent such as a Man City, a Chelsea, any of those type of clubs. So I think the end game here is to buy him back and then sell him off for a profit. Sell him off for the 12, 15 million that he might be going for. And of course, all that profit, you take the 3.4, 3.5 million, you sell him off for even 12 million. You get almost about like an over an $8 million profit out of it, which is smart business. But at the same time, if they plan on keeping him, I just don't see what the end game is for Arsenal, what the purpose is for it, because he had his time here, he had his chance here. Arsene Wenger gave him more than enough chances, in my opinion, to prove himself, and of course he sold him off. And of course, people are trying to make ups, comparisons to have you not learned from um, Aaron Ramsey and what he's done over his time. But in Aaron Ramsey's defense, he had a leg break data. He had to come back for. He had a number of other little injuries too, but the leg break, is something that it's tough to get over for any type of football player. Whether you break your ankle, you break your leg, depending on where the leg break is, it takes time to trust yourself, to trust your leg again, to trust your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, everything. And the fact too, I mean, Carlos Vela is 25 years old. He just turned 25 in March. Um, you know, again, is there a place for him? Is that the right type of striker that you want? I'm not sure. Because also you got to think about there's a good possibility that Joel Campbell, who is part of the Costa Rican um, national team, who will be playing in the World Cup, played for Olympiacos last year, scored a nice goal against Manchester United. He was probably the only Arsenal player to actually score against Manchester United last year. Think about that one. So he might be coming back with the club. I know Arsene Wenger said that he should be ready right after World Cup to report to Arsenal. He's a winner. He's versatile. He can play also the right wing, the left wing, and striker. So now you're bringing in two players with Villa and Campbell back into the club because Villa or Campbell was on loan, of course, with Olympiacos. So now you're bringing back two players. There's now we're seeing a ton of players at certain positions, and you kind of got to go back to the Cesc Fabregas deal, which I'm still holding a lot of hope. There's just too much of he said, she said here, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But you're bringing Vela back to the club if he stays. That now you're might bring on Joel Campbell. You're going to have a healthy Theo Walcott next year. You're going to have a healthy Ox. You're going to have a healthy Lucas. Santi, which I'll get into in a little bit here. You might have Loc Remy, who is very versatile, who can play the wing, who can play striker. You're going to have a lot of wingers now all of a sudden in Arsenal. But in my conclusion, I think Vela gets bought back and then he gets sold back off. Where he gets sold to, I'm not sure. He might get sold back to a La Liga side, but because I think Vela's playing style and La Liga, they fit perfectly. La Liga is not exactly the defensive heavy type of league. It's not as physical as a Premier League. To where that's what Villa had the most problems with was the physicality of the Premier League. He's not a big guy. He's relatively, he's about 5'8", 5'9". He's probably like maybe 5'9" in some cleats or some boots. So he's not an overly intimidating person to look at either when you're playing against him. So again, going back to who else was interested in Villa up until about a few days ago was Real Madrid. Now we've been in talks with Real Madrid supposedly for Sami Khedira, uh, Di Maria, and also Benzema. The Benzema deal won't even bother happening until if they get Suarez. But a lot of Real Madrid people are saying they're gonna not only bring in Suarez, but they're gonna keep Benzema as well. That's why they're gonna possibly send Morata out on loan, which seems like the end deal for because no one wants to have the buyback clause in Morata's deal. That's why it's being held back so much for him to get transferred either to Juventus or even to us, even though I don't want him. I think he's too young, he's too inexperienced. Just because he plays with Real Madrid doesn't make him good. Just because he wears that shirt doesn't make him good. He has a lot to learn still. You could see that a lot of his goals, were garbage goals with Real Madrid, where he came in for Benzema late in the game. The other team was given up by then, and he scored a couple garbage goals. But as far as Vela goes, he could be part of a deal that goes to Real Madrid for a guy like Sami Khedira or a Di Maria possibly. So that's something to think about down the road of why they're buying Vela back. This is what also concerns me about buying Carlos Vela back is the fact that you can say goodbye to Griezmann because Real Sociedad will probably not sell him to us if we buy back Vela at such a small price. Of course, we have every right to buy Vela back, but at the same time, you could probably say goodbye to Griezmann unless we're going to overpay for him. Unfortunately, Frank Ribery got hurt right before the World Cup. He's not going to be in the World Cup, and Griezmann is now the starting left winger for France. Chances were that Griezmann wasn't going to even probably get any time with France, and that would have been good for us as far as a transfer fee. Lately, with the French national team, has been tearing it up. I think he has something like 3 goals in the last couple games for France. So he's proven himself on the international level, which raises your transfer fee, which raises your wages up tenfold, especially in a World Cup year. And if Griezmann has a good World Cup, I mean, his asking price supposedly right now is between 18 and 20 million pounds. If he has a good World Cup, that's going to go up to anywhere from 25 to 30 million pounds. And I think this is just my opinion, but I think Arsenal was trying to get that deal done before the World Cup, and they were using Carlos Vela as collateral because there was a rumor going around right when the Villa stuff broke is that they were going to tell Real Sociedad, if you give us a little bit of a discount price on Antoine Griezmann, we'll let you keep Villa because they know that they're going to lose Griezmann no matter what. PSG's interested, we're interested. I think Manchester United is interested. There's plenty of big clubs that are looking at Griezmann right now. But one thing that we have going for us is that Griezmann has already said he wants Champions League football. So we have that going for us. The other thing that we have going for us is that PSG is just pricing themselves out completely. Like they're just pretty much telling the FFP to go fuck themselves, which is kind of ridiculous. I don't know where they're. I know they have all the money in the world, but as far as how the FFP works, they're really pricing themselves out. Especially if the David Luiz deal for 50 million pounds is real. So with the Villa deal, they're gonna try to get a discount on Griezmann and say, go ahead and keep Villa. You can then sell him yourself and make whatever the 12 to 15 million pounds that they think they can get for him. So because of this deal, it's in my opinion that you can just kiss Griezmann goodbye altogether, because Real Sociedad is going to be just absolutely fuming because of this deal and the fact that Arsenal is telling them, no, you're not getting any of the profit. You don't get any percentage. He's our player. We have a buyback clause. We're going to activate it and we're going to bring him back, only to probably sell him off for 12 to 15 million pounds. And Real Sociedad gets none of that. Well, they get to 3.5 million, but they want the full 12 to 15 million because they missed out on Champions League this year. So Real Sociedad is just going to be fuming. Any type of bid that comes in for Griezmann, they're probably just going to give us the middle finger and say, have a nice day. Another concern that came up today, also, which kind of seemed like it kind of got swept under the rug a little bit, was because of all the Villa talk. It's just been bombing around Twitter this whole day, but Atletico Madrid is planning to line up a 18 million pound bid for Santi Cazorla, because you know that Barcelona is going after COYG, so they need a replacement. Of course, Santi Cazorla is probably ideal because he is from Spain. Uh, this one concerns me a little bit. Of course, we all know that Santi loves the club. He loves playing for the club. But again, he's from Spain. I think he even kind of admitted it over last summer that a move back to Spain sometime in the future would be ideal for him. So this one kind of it has like two parts in my opinion, and I know this is a little bit more of like a conspiracy theory, but this one kind of came out of nowhere in a way for Santi Cazorla, and of course it seems like it's being brushed under the rug a little bit. Is the deal with Cesc Fabregas still on for Arsenal? Is everything that the media is telling us wrong? Because no one really knows. I know in that little supporter group that Ivan Gazidis talked to, there's a lot of people who did a lot of off the record type stuff. Now, Ivan Gazidis is not an idiot. No one at Arsenal is an idiot. They like to keep things close to the chest when it comes to transfer deals. If they were working on the Ozil deal, like I talked about in my last episode, if they were working on that for months, we didn't know anything about it until basically 2 or 3 days before it actually happened. Now, if they were able to keep quiet for that long, why would they talk to people who they don't trust at all, who's part of the media, who's part of the Twitter world, who's part of the blogging world, who's part of the podcast world? Why would they go off the record and say, oh, you know what, Cesc Fabregas isn't coming? Why would they say off the record, well, we are owed something from Real Sociedad for Carlos Vela if they sell him off? Why would they say those things? You got to start asking yourself, why would they say those things off the record to people they don't even trust? So this one for Santi Cazorla is kind of, you got to kind of watch it a little bit. Will he accept a bid? I don't know. Will Arsenal accept a bid? Maybe. Because if Cesc Fabregas is still on, and we didn't actually say no, because there was a little bit of a rumor going around last week that, or this week actually, this past weekend, it was like Sunday or Monday, that a bid was put in for Cesc Fabregas, but now Barcelona is waiting on Arsenal with their first option, not their second option. Their second option is to gain any profit from the original transfer fee for Cesc Fabregas. That's the second option. Their first option is actually the buyback clause. And of course, how buyback clauses work as far as Cesc Fabregas goes was a team has to bid, the player has to say yes to being transferred, and then the team can come in and have first refusal. So if Cesc is coming back, someone has to go, whether it's Santi, whether it's Thomas Rosicky, who I believe just signed a new contract. So someone has to go there. Of course, Cesc Fabregas is 27 years old. Santi Cazorla will be 30 years old at the start of next year. How many different, Cesc Fabregas just turned 27 on May 4th, which is kind of odd because he's number 4. But you got to kind of look at that. Is this Arsenal kind of playing puppet master here and slowly trying to push someone out the door so they can make room for Cesc? Because like I said in my previous episode, you just don't say no to a world-class player. Santi Cazorla, when he came to Arsenal, was a borderline world-class player, but he didn't have the best of years last year. I know his responsibilities changed from playing left wing, right wing, but at times when he did play in the middle, when he did play even Aaron Ramsey's role in a couple games, he wasn't good. He had some bright moments during the season, but overall his season was pretty poor compared to his first season. So is Arsenal looking to cash in on you know, once I think he turns 30 in September. And of course, Arsene Wenger and Arsenal have a notorious, rule. Once you hit over 30, you don't see any more contracts come your way. You might see a 1-year contract, you might see a 2-year contract, and that's it. I know Santi's signed until I believe 2017. I believe. He'll be what 34 by then once his contract runs out. And chances are he won't make it to the end of his contract. But that's something you have to really look out for is Arsenal trying to push out one of those midfielders so they can make room for Cesc again. So that's pretty interesting that all of a sudden, Santi Cazorla name popped up out of nowhere because, Atletico Madrid is looking for replacements because they seem to be losing a lot of players, even though they're trying not to say, well, we're not going to be a selling club. Even though it seems like Koke is going to be going to Barcelona, Diego Costa is going to um, Chelsea. I think another one of their players, I think one of their center halves is, I don't even want to butcher his name, so I'm not going to even say it, but I think one of their center halves is coming to the Premier League as well. So they're losing some players. So they got to, David Vela has already signed for the new club in New York that's coming out. That's going to be kicked off next season in the MLS. He already signed for them. So they've lost 3 big players already, 4 big players already in the transfer market possibly. So they're looking for replacements, and of course, what better midfielder than another Spanish midfielder who still has maybe 1 or 2 years left in him of prime years in Santi Cazorla, and plus they can offer what Arsenal can't, and that's to play in the middle. And that's where he would probably play at Atletico Madrid. He would be the playmaker. He would go back into his playmaking role. Because right now, of course, it's already up with Mesut Ozil. And of course, you still have Thomas Rosicky, but again, he'll be 34 next year, so it's something to look out for. But like I said, with the Villa deal, you might have to say goodbye to Antoine Griezmann, which is unfortunate because as far as my winners list, of my wish list, he was basically the list. Other than Di Maria, I don't think we're going to get Di Maria. Real Madrid came out this past week and said we won't entertain any offers for Di Maria unless it's 40 million pounds or more. Um, I think they're either looking to cash in for him now when he's top of the food chain right now because of his performance in the Champions League final, just his overall performance this past year with Real Madrid. I think once they made him the attacking midfielder, it really pushed them forward, especially in the Champions League. And he made all the bit of difference in the Champions League final. I mean, he was the man of the match, in my opinion. He was the best player on the field, above CR7, above Gareth Bale. He created the game-winning goal for Real Madrid. So Real Madrid might be looking to cash in for Di Maria. But in my opinion, I think Di Maria is just looking for a new contract, more money from Real Madrid, which they can offer. Obviously, they can offer the 200 to 225 thousand pound type of wages that Arsenal can't really do. I mean, Arsenal can do it, but you can't offer too many of those guys at one time. You can't have too many of those guys on your book right now. But this will be the end of this episode. Probably going to come out with another episode this coming weekend. We're going to talk a little bit more about the transfer market, talk a little bit more about what kind of wish lists I like to have, what I like to see be brought into Arsenal. So take a look out for that. And again, like, subscribe, have any comments, leave them down below. I definitely will respond back to you if you do. So anyway, enjoy the summer. World Cup is tomorrow, or actually in about a day and a half. So enjoy that. Can't wait for it. Can't wait to see the Arsenal players kick ass. And that'll be it. Later.